Welcome to Rewired Sober, the podcast that tells the truth about why women drink and what it actually takes to stop. Spoiler alert, it's not a character flaw. It's your conditioning and the roles you were handed long before you ever picked up a drink. I'm your host, Kate Vitella. I have been an RN for well over 2 decades. I'm addiction trained, a psychiatric nurse, and a sobriety coach. And this is where we do science and soul work of a woman's recovery. So you can stop white knuckling this shit and actually start trusting yourself. I am a raging feminist, a fashion lover, and I swear a lot. So if that's for you, buckle up, let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Rewired Sober. I'm your lovely host, Kate Vitella. This is a solo episode. It's not fucking fair that I have to quit drinking and everyone else is keeping the party going. That is what we're going to be talking about today. But before I get started, I wanted to let you know I'm on YouTube. I'm putting these on YouTube. So if you want to see all of my crazy antics while I'm recording this, highly suggest you check out my YouTube Rewired Sober, especially because I just got this, which is my handy dandy new fan. Hopefully you can see that. My little cunt fan. And I will be waving this every time I just need some fresh air if I'm getting a little too cunty. Very proud of this little device here. So yeah, YouTube's fun. You can really kind of join me in on this journey here. So, okay, I hear this phrase all the time. I hear women telling me it's not fair that I have to quit drinking. Totally get it. Honestly, I think more women should say it out loud. Scream it into a pillow. Call me, right? It's not fair that I have to quit drinking. And I think it's important to say it because pretending that you are immediately enlightened or grateful while you're secretly kind of raging, that's not really your emotional sobriety, right? That's just performing. And we're sick of performing. We're sick of performance art. So I want to acknowledge, yes, sometimes getting sober feels unfair. A lot of times it feels very unfair. It feels unfair. Whoa, microphone. It feels unfair when everyone else looks like they're just drinking, having a good time. It feels unfair when alcohol was your bestie. Hello, me, your stress relief, your social glue, your reward, your escape hatch, your confidence, your exhale, the love of your life, right? And now suddenly you're the one that has to drink sparkling water, has to drink. Another reason you should watch this on YouTube is I'm the queen of air quotes, all right? Has to drink in air quotes sparkling water, while Jenny from accounting is double fisting the booze, the vodka sodas at happy hour, and somehow she's still functioning, right? We're looking at these other people around us still drinking, and we're looking at our friends still drinking, and it feels like this insult. So I want to talk about, first of all, normalizing this. So I want to talk about the difference between unfair circumstances versus staying powerless inside them, because these are not the same thing. And I'm going to use this analogy, and don't punch me, but I can't help but go here because I sort of think about this the same way that I think about a really awful diagnosis, a chronic disease, something that happens to you or someone you love that feels really unjustified, unfair, very frustrating, a big life impact. And I didn't think about this personally in the beginning when I was first getting sober because I didn't have the capacity to go here. I just didn't. And I fully understand if you don't either in the beginning, but I want you to hear me out on this. When someone, again, don't punch me, when someone gets diagnosed with cancer, no one says, well, we're going to ignore it because it's just unfair. Yeah, it's fucking unfair. When someone's diagnosed with a terminal illness, oh, it's unfair. but they still have to deal with the reality of it. And I know that addiction and cancer are not the same thing, right? Medically, it's so different, but emotionally, the similarities here are overwhelming grief and anger and bargaining, denial, resentment, right? And until you eventually come into acceptance. And I hear women say, but it's not fair. I can't drink. And I get it, but I think if we dig deeper, underneath there is usually some connotation of, I'm scared. I'm scared I'll lose myself, the person I thought I was. Or I don't want my life to change, right? Or I'm scared that I'll become boring. My life will become boring and I'll never feel good again. I'm scared that everyone else gets a form of freedom except me. I'm scared to be othered, or I'm just fucking frustrated, right? There's another emotion underneath there. That's where the real conversation gets started. And also, it truly, really isn't fair sometimes. Some people do, quote, air quotes again, get to drink copious amounts of booze for years without obvious consequences. I have them all around me and my family. I've seen friends do it, and they go on and on like this. And you think, wow, how is this fair? It's that. They're posting happy hour wine nights, vacations, bottomless mimosas. And you're over here like working on reducing your nervous system and, like reducing your stress and rebuilding and electrolytes and taking magnesium. You're like some fucking Victorian woman that's recovering from tuberculosis, right? I get it. But I want to go into a mindset shift that really changed things for me. And that was when I realized nobody escapes the consequences forever. And I mean, nobody. Maybe the consequences are going to look a little different, right? Maybe there's things you don't see and emotional disconnection, their shitty sleep, their anxiety. Maybe you don't notice or they don't even notice how it's affecting their relationships, that it's the major precursor to their depression. I mean, you will see consequences like weight fluctuations, but there's insidious little things that build in people: burnout and regret and the loss of self. Now, I'm not trying to list all these things like, guess what? This person's going to get all these things. So you just wait. But what I'm trying to tell you is you can't always see the big picture. And what you see is them out drinking or what they post on social media or inviting you to an event, but you don't see the underneath layers. And this idea that other people are getting away with it while you're being like uniquely punished, I'm telling you folks right now, that mindset will kill you. Because then sobriety will feel like a fucking trip to Deprivation Island instead of a point in your life when you use discernment. And honestly, I mean, some women are not really being restricted from alcohol. They're sort of being redirected out of a life that was slowly draining the hell out of them. And if you can get to that perspective, that's a very, very different perspective. So the goal here is not to sit around and be furious that other people can't drink. Like we've said in the recovery communities a million times over, the goal is to build a life that's so good, that's so you and honest, that you stop obsessing over what's in everybody else's glass, right? You go out, you have your sparkling water, you know, you're with the girls. You don't care what other people are drinking. You're living in your own world, right? And honestly, let's face it, life is not evenly distributed. I talk about this all the time. Some people win the genetic lottery in certain areas of their life, and some don't. Like me. I will say, like, I won the lottery in like muscle structure. Like I look like I lift weights all the time and, I've got like really a fit physique. I won the genetic lottery in having very large hair. I did not win the genetic lottery in tooth enamel or irritable bowel syndrome. I did not come out of my mother's womb as a woman who can eat cheesecake and be naturally thin. I'm not tall enough to be a supermodel. I have wild, curly, fuzzy hair. And if it's humid outside, I look insane. So there are parts of my life where, yes, I got some great genetics, and there are parts of my life that I didn't. Life is weird. Nobody gets handed a perfectly balanced deck. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, some people can honestly drink moderately for decades, and some people can't. But some people can fucking eat dairy and gluten like it's just, part of their world, while the rest of us are one iced latte away from shitting our pants and going into GI warfare. Me. But that's reality. And spending your life arguing with your genetics, your destiny, your wiring, the way things have unfolded in your life, spending your life arguing that versus learning how to work with it and work with yourself, that's where I see people get into this self-perpetuating victim mentality, and the suffering gets really prolonged. And at some point we get to the other side, and we can kind of have some emotional maturity around this. And it might sound like, okay, this is the body, the brain, the nervous system, the genetics I got. Thanks, mom and dad. Now, how do I build the best life possible with it? Does that sound cheesy? Well, too bad, because it's true. This is the deck of cards I got. I can't drink alcohol. I need sleep. I will shit my pants if I have too much dairy. My hair looks like Rosanna Dan on the old SNL skits. Now, how do I build the best life I can with that deck of cards, right? That's the only way for me to stay empowered. And, it's not like I'm in denial of these other parts. I'm not pretending it's fair. It's just more of a radical honesty with what's going on around, a radical honesty of what I'm capable of, what I'm good at, what I'm not, the areas that I struggle, and sort of taking that level of radical honesty within myself and following it up with action. And, I have to go here as well. Like, you've read a lot about, no, you haven't. Why am I assuming you understand Buddhist philosophy? I don't even understand. Let me rephrase that. This is honestly, I think, a place where actual Buddhist philosophy gets it really deeply, truly right. And at the core idea of Buddhism is basically life involves suffering. Not because you are particularly cursed, not because God or the spirit universe or the higher power hates you. You don't get specifically singled out for punishment, but because humaning is hard. The human body breaks down. People break our heart. People disappoint us. Relationships end. Our hardwire, our brains struggle. We age. We lose things. We get anxious and depressed. We compare ourselves. We attach to things that we grip on. We think they'll save our lives. And it's all of this very complex dance we play in life. It's beautiful and also brutal. That's why Glennon Doyle Melton coined the term brutiful, because that's the deal. And weirdly, accepting that, the Buddhists accepting that life is, it can be a struggle. That's actually what will reduce your suffering, because half of the suffering comes from arguing with reality. Call me the Bodhisattva. Half of our suffering comes from arguing and shoulding all over ourselves. It shouldn't be this way. This should not be happening to me. This is unfair. Why me? Everyone else has it so much easier. You see, that resistance, it adds a second layer of suffering, because there's already the thing, right? There's already the unfair thing. You're already handed that deck of cards, and there's fucking nothing you can do about it. But you add in resistance and anger and resentment, there's a whole nother layer of suffering. on top of that pain that already exists. And listen, I'm not saying this is easy. I am not saying you can sit back and passively just ride this wave. It's hard. My friends joked that I was like the angriest person in early sobriety that could possibly exist. And I wouldn't even call it anger as much as I would call it that I was constantly suffering. I was constantly shoulding and struggling and pushing back on what was. I was so frustrated. Why me? All my nurse friends drink and smoke pot and run amok. Why did I get caught? Why am I the one that has to get sober? They're out fucking having happy hour, drinking wine, having a good time together, joking about how they went to work hungover. I'm frustrated. Why me? It's not fair, right? This frustration took a long time inside me to ease. But I'm saying that as time goes on, being able to accept it's not like you're passively sitting by. Acceptance is different than resignation. Accepting it says, okay, this is my reality. Now, what can I do moving forward? And let me tell you, ladies, this is where your power comes back online. This is where you take your power back. You accept what it is. Now, what can I do? Because when you stop spending all your fucking energy fighting reality, you finally have the energy available to build, to move forward. I was talking with a client the other day, and I was talking about the difference between therapy and coaching. And I use this example a lot. Nothing wrong with therapy. I go to a therapist. I love therapists. I think they're doing brilliant work. The difference is you're going to work with a therapist and rehash your past and psychoanalyze your life and your childhood over and over and over again. And coaching is you're going to move forward. Okay, accept that happened. This is where we're at. Now what? You're going to move forward and build a plan. That's the difference. So when I stopped putting all my energy into fighting the reality and I start looking at, okay, what do I do now? Honestly, sobriety, it sort of taught me like, not every hard thing that comes your way is punishment. Sometimes it's just part of the human experience. And sometimes it's just part of being alive. And adulting means I have to look at this and take my power back in the areas that I can. And of course, there's FOMO, right? Let's talk about that because there's gonna be FOMO. In early sobriety, it really does feel, and because it's true, everyone else is invited to the party. And you are sort of proverbially kicked out. And there's so much FOMO, but eventually, if you stick with it long enough, something massive shifts. You quit looking at it like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. Because you're probably not actually missing the alcohol as much as you're missing the connection, the novelty and celebration with friends, and the belonging, right? We all want to belong. And this permission to relax and have fun and play, that's what you're missing. And you might even be missing like the perception that you get to be fully free and yourself. But alcohol just rented itself out as a shortcut for a while. And when you are able to get sober and stay with it, you start to realize, oh my God, I wasn't obsessed with the alcohol. I was probably just exhausted, lonely, disconnected, overwhelmed, burned out, which honestly, should have been remedied elsewhere, not via me poisoning myself. And you will get to a place when you look at other people drinking alcohol and think, that's not a reward. You're going to feel like shit tomorrow, Jenny. I love you, but that's not a reward. You will get to the place where you look at your friends going out for happy hour and think, awesome, have some tots for me and a few extra shots. You're gonna feel like a human garbage can tomorrow, if not tonight. when you're puking. You will get to that place where you see it for what it is and you no longer think poisoning your body is a privilege. But in the time that you're struggling with the FOMO, I encourage you to really look at what you're really missing is not the alcohol. It's what you really needed in replacement if you are burned out, lonely, disconnected, right? It's not fair, cunts. Because you're also going to grieve being the party girl or the cool girl or the whatever identity you had before, the rebellious one. And, for me, I was like the one that was like, I can hang with you, no matter what, especially because drinking was marketed to women and as a like empowerment. My thing was like, oh, I can drink as much as you can, and like, somehow blacking out after 20 glasses of wine or 19 spicy margarita, that's feminism? Ma'am, that's not. That's dehydration with better branding. And this is another reason why sobriety can feel unfair at first. It really forces you to face your actual life without anesthesia. And that's terrifying. That's fucking terrifying. But it's also where your power is. Because like I said, I'm going to go back to this. If you stay in the game long enough, something will shift. And you will start realizing, what if quitting alcohol wasn't punishment at all? What if it was the nudge, the interruption, the wake-up call that forced you back into a life that's more aligned? It forced you into a new life that was more you, that was more your own. Right? It might be the wake-up call that's forcing you. And I keep using the word force because sometimes we only change due to pain, right? Pain is a powerful motivator. Sometimes we only change when there's consequences. I know I did. I only changed when it got so bad. I basically couldn't live anymore. But in there somewhere, I was forced into a better life. And damn if I'm not grateful for that nudge, that interruption into the shitty path I was going down. And I hear a lot of women secretly settle into their lives while they're drinking. They settle in. They tolerate shit. They tolerate dead relationships, for lack of a better term, shit partners. They tolerate chronic burnout because they're always people pleasing and numbing. And, they tolerate lives that are mediocre and they get used to self-abandoning. I know I did. My drinking was secretly numbing the fact that my life had shaped up to not be what I hoped or wanted. And I was going down this path of like people pleasing and like performing for the male gaze, for my career, just what people wanted me to do. I was literally performing my ass off. And I had to keep drinking to numb because I was so burnt to a crisp. And alcohol works really well for that because it'll fuel you and let you keep performing. It'll let you survive a life that actually needs to change. Something needs to happen. There needs to be a pattern interrupt. And so this whole like explosion where you're realizing, okay, I'm going to give up alcohol. That's actually going to be the awesomest thing that's ever happened to you because it's going to remove the fog. Sobriety removes that foggy layer over your life. And it's going to feel unfair at first. But later, again, if you stick with it, you will realize not only may you have saved your own life, but you are emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, all of it, you're rebuilding a better life. One that's so good, you didn't know it was possible. And this is the part nobody can do for you. But at some point, you've got to stop asking yourself, why do I have to quit drinking? It's not fair. And start asking yourself, okay, I know alcohol's killing me, hurting me, fucking my life up. What kind of life do I want to build? Because that's where your power is, cunt. That's your power. I'm holding up the cunt fan if you're not watching on YouTube. And power is not controlling the circumstances. It's controlling your mindset inside the circumstances. Because guess what, honey? That's all you can control, right? You're not powerless. But there are things you cannot control, like the fucking circumstances, like the weather, like other people's opinions. What you can control is your mindset. And you can move yourself out of resentment and that place that keeps you stuck in that fucking victim energy. And there's a massive difference between living from the old adage, life is happening to me versus life is happening for me. Now, Tommy Rosen, one of the great spiritual yogi teachers, taught me this. Quit looking at life like it's happening to you and start looking at it like it's happening for you. And I don't mean being toxic positivity, gross, Pollyanna. Because in no way am I saying that this addiction is some magical, wonderful, fluffy, cute, fucking inspirational thing that happened to you. No, it's genuinely a painful journey. But when you stay locked into that, why is all this happening to me? You stay powerless. You stay powerless. Your brain will keep searching for evidence that you've been singled out. It's not fair. You've been punished. You're deprived. You've been screwed over. But if you can shift slowly, if you can get here, maybe with my help, maybe with another, whatever, a friend, someone, if you can shift into, what if there's something here for me to learn, rebuild, reclaim? What if there's a new version of me? Then everything changes. And that mindset is also where I see people start building and rebuilding self-respect. Because then the story around sobriety stops being like, oh my God, I'm banned from all the fun. I'm left out. It's not fair. The story starts becoming, yeah, I fucking quit. I finally stopped abandoning myself. I quit poisoning myself. And it's a huge difference, right? One mindset keeps you grieving in that old life, and the other mindset helps you totally rebuild a new one. And listen, grief is normal through this process. Anger is normal. I just did a whole podcast episode on anger. Resistance to this is normal, right? We live in an alcohol-soaked world. I am not in any way saying, oh, you should just be sober while the rest of the world is drunk as a skunk. Resistance to this change is normal. But staying emotionally parked in it and this whole, why me, this shouldn't have happened to me, it will keep your life really, really small. And the women I see thriving in sobriety are not the ones who, they didn't emotionally bypass any of this. I'm sure there are phases of their life where they felt really angry about quitting. But the women I see thrive eventually came to a place where they decided, I can either spend years and years and years arguing with the reality, or I can build a life so good, I stop romanticizing that thing that was destroying me. And if you're in a phase where sobriety feels unfair, you're not failing at your sober journey, you're not negative Nelly, you're just grieving. But don't stop there. Don't live there. Don't live in your shitty diaper. Because one day, and I really mean this, you're going to look back and realize quitting drinking wasn't the thing that ruined your life. Oh, no, no, no. It was the thing that gave you your life back. It returned you to you. And honestly, that's a whole nother level of freedom. So I also want to say one more thing. if in any way you think that I am the expert of turning shit into positivity, I am not. This podcast used to be called You've Been Selected, because there were years and years when I first got put into the nursing monitoring program where I lived in this story that it was unfair. It was so unfair that a woman at 38 years old had to quit drinking and partying when I still had the cool clothes and I still wanted to go live that life. It was all unfair. I was caught doing something that everybody else does and doesn't get in trouble for it, but I got caught and they get to go on with their lives. And I lived in that. And I was so angry at the consequences that I showed up to every support group. And I just so incredibly frustrated. And the shift for me was when I realized that those red letters popping up for the monitoring program saying that I had to go provide a random UA, those red letters that said, "You've been selected, Kate, get to a lab, pee in a cup, prove you're sober, just so you can do the bare minimum and work as a nurse in some scut job that you got demoted to because your life and career fell to shit." Hashtag so unfair. I stopped looking at those letters like I've been selected because I'm a piece of shit and it's all unfair and this is happening to me. And one day I realized, oh, this is happening for me. Now, the way I tell that story is very Pollyanna. Like one day I was sitting in line waiting to randomly UA and this golden cloud sparkles and shimmer. And no, it took time. It took space. It took tears. It took working with a coach, screaming into a pillow, long, long walks, listening to excessive podcasts. I had to almost burn up my energy fighting it. And like I've said in my podcast about anger, underneath the anger was another layer of heartbreak that I had to get to. Underneath oh my God, the anger of why me was this deep heartbreak in the ways that I had been wronged and that the things that did happen to me that weren't fair. That was heartbreaking. There's real shit that happens to you that is unfair. There was people that in my life that were mean and unjust things that happened to me. People in my life died, got sick, my parents, my family life. There was real stuff. I had disappointed me. People around me had disappointed me. There was institutional betrayal. The hospital disappointed the fuck out of me. The nursing career and the pressure they put on nurses disappointed me. Men disappointed me so much. But under that anger was heartbreak. And when I was able to sit with it long enough and soften, give myself some compassion, I was able to finally look at this like, okay, I've got to shift my mindset because this is where I'm at. I'm in this monitoring program. I'm 2 years sober. I'm at a job I never thought I would be at. Now, how am I going to take my power back? And slowly but surely changing that story in my head of it's not fair, why me, to, oh no, this is happening for me. Because that life I was living before, no, that was not me reaching my potential. That was not me being free or honest or true, right? That's not what my soul was looking for. And so I had to really look at it like, wow, yeah, okay. There's something in this sober journey. Maybe it's working with other women. Maybe it's screaming into this microphone. Maybe it's in the cunt fan. Whatever it is, there's something waiting for me on the other side. So if this hits, I work with women exactly in this space. You can find me anywhere at Rewired Sober. I'd love for you to book a coaching discovery call or share this episode with a friend or a woman who you've heard say, like, this is so unfair. Yeah, it is. You are not broken. Your unfair friend is not broken. You are standing at the beginning of a massive identity shift. And I would love nothing more than to walk you home. Cunt fan drop. I'm out. All right, that's what I got for you today. If this hits, send it to a woman who needs to hear this shit, because we are not doing this alone. You can find me on Instagram and pretty much all the socials at Rewired Sober. The links are in my show notes if you want to work with me one-on-one and go deeper. I love you, mean it, take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the next one.